Hello everyone, I'm Marcelo, and on this tutorial we will learn how to execute a UiPath Web Automation on Linux. So let's get started. As a requirement, we have to install Docker in our computer, so then we can run a Linux Docker container where our robot will run. So to install it, here on Google, let's just search for Docker. And let's open here the first page, and now let's click here to download Docker for Windows. Download is finished. Let's execute the installer. So now here we can click on OK, and now it's being installed Docker in our computer. Let's just wait.
5 hours later.
Installation succeeded, so we can close here this window. So now let's start Docker. And now here, let's click on Accept. And then when we start Docker for the first time, probably will appear this warning message telling that the WSL installation is incomplete. So WSL is short for Windows Subsystem for Linux, and it is needed to be able to run Linux executables natively on Windows. So let's follow the instructions on this page to install the kernel update. So let's follow this step to install the Linux kernel update package. So let's click on this link. And now we have downloaded the kernel update. Let's execute it. And now here, let's click on next. And now let's click here on finish. Then, after installing the Linux kernel update package, let's restart Docker. So to restart it, let's do a right click here and click on restart. And then click on restart again. Then if it appears this error message, just close Docker. So let's quit Docker desktop. And then start it again. And now it's everything okay to get started with Docker. So now let's keep the tutorial. Now the next step will be to pull a Linux robot to Docker with Web Automation capabilities. To do it, let's start PowerShell. And let's insert the following command: docker pull registry.uipathrobot/robot/webautomation-runtime. Now we will replace this tag parameter to specify the robot version to be used. So we will use the 2022.10 robot version. So let's select here this tag parameter and insert the following tag. And now that we've inserted the doc image tag to specify the robot version, let's click on enter. And now we just have to wait.
5 hours later.
And it's done. Now we should be able to see on Docker the Docker image that was installed. So here on Docker, if we click on images, here we can see the Docker image related to the Linux robot. So now that we have the robot Docker image installed, let's establish a connection between our orchestrator and the Docker image. So let's open our orchestrator. First of all, let's create a machine template that supports cross-platform capabilities, so we can use it for Linux. So here on tenant, let's click now on machines, and let's create a new machine. And now let's click on machine template. Now here, let's define the template name. Can be, for example, Linux machine, for example. And now here, process type, let's define background only. Process compatibility, let's select cross-platform only. And now here, make sure you assign at least one runtime, for example, an attended one. And now let's click here on provision. And now that the machine was created, let's run our Docker image and establish the connection between the image and orchestrator. And for that, we'll have to execute a command. And we have here two options. So if we just want to run the Web Automation on the robot without being able to visually see the robot's execution, we will execute the first command. But if we want to be able to see what's going on, so if we want to see the robot running the Web Automation, we will execute the second command that will enable VNC. And VNC, short for Virtual Network Computing, it's like Windows RDP. So we'll run the second command, so to be able to see the robot running the Web Automation. So here we have to replace these tags, here with our orchestrator URL, and here with our machine key, and here we have to provide the tag indicating the robot version. So first, let's indicate our orchestrator URL. So here we have to copy it until the tenant name. So here in my case, default tenant. So let's copy and let's replace. Now let's get our machine key. So we have it here. Let's copy and let's replace what we have here. And then I'll just indicate here the robot version. So let's replace the tag parameter. And let's paste here the robot version using the Docker image tag. So now let's just place this command in one line. So here, let's like this. So let's copy here the command. And now on PowerShell, let's execute it. Click on enter. And now as we can see, our Docker image it's running and already successfully connected to Orchestrator. So these are great news. And now if we go to UiPath Orchestrator, and now if we go to machines, and here on our newer machine, if we click on view installed versions, here we can see so the connection that was established from the Docker image. So now let's build a really simple web automation on UiPath. So here, let's create a new process. And now we'll define the name Linux Web Automation. And now, really important, make sure you set the compatibility mode to cross-platform. So it's really important to be cross-platform. And now, let's click on Create. So now, let's just open the main workflow. And the automation will be really simple. So it will open Google Chrome on the UiPath page. So here on Google Chrome, let's open here UiPath website. And now here on Studio, let's search for the activity Use Browser. And now first, let's indicate the page to be open on Google Chrome. So here, Working tab, let's open the drop-down and let's select the UiPath website. So if it doesn't appear on your side, make sure you open UiPath website on Google Chrome. And now let's just add a click. So for example, to click here on platform. So let's search here for the click activity. And let's drag it inside of the use browser activity. And now let's indicate. So let's click here and indicate here the platform option. And now let's confirm. And now let's just run this automation here on Windows to see if it's working before deploying it to Orchestrator. So let's just close here UiPath website. And now let's run automation. And now here we can see that it opens and then navigates to the platform page. So it's working well. So let's deploy to UiPath Orchestrator to then run it on the Docker image. So let's click here on publish. And now here on publish options, make sure you publish to the tenant process feed. So in my case, I will not publish to the personal workspace folder. I will publish to the demos folder. So let's now click on publish. And the project was published successfully. So now let's add the process on our folder. So here on UiPath Orchestrator, I will open the demos folder. Now let's click on processes and let's add a new process. So here let's select the project that we have published. And here we can see it. So Linux Web Automation. Now let's click on next, next, and now let's click on create. And the project was added successfully. So now let's close. Now let's try to start the process on our Docker image. So it is currently running. So let's start a job of the process. And now here on machine, if we click here, it will not appear here our newer machine template for our Docker image. So that means that we have to add it to our folder, and to add the machine to our folder, it's simple. So here on home, let's click on machines. Now let's click on manage machines in folder, and let's add our newer machine template. Let's click on update. Now it's added. So if we go to automations and now click on start a job for our process, now here we can see our machine template that we have created. Let's select it. And now here host name we can select, so the host name related to the Docker image that it's running. Let's select it. And now let's click on start. And as we can see, seems that the job doesn't start, and I wanted to show that because it can happen on your side. And if it happens, probably that means that you don't have runtimes available. So if you are using the community version, probably we are using already the runtime, the unattended runtime on your Windows session. So to overcome this problem, here on tenants, let's click on machines. And then here on the machine template that it's created by default when we create a UiPath Orchestrator tenant. So here, let's click on edit machine. And here, let's remove the runtime for production, the unattended one. So let's put here a 0 and let's click on update. And now just make sure on the machine template that we have created that you have and runtime assigned here for production unattended. So now if we go back to our folder, automations, jobs, and now if we kill our pending job, and now if we restart it, and make sure you select here the machine template for Linux, and here select our host name related to our Docker image. And now as we can see, was executed the job and it finished successfully. But the thing is that we are not able to see it running. So to be able to see the automation running, and we can see it because we have enabled VNC when we have launched the Docker image. So to see it, we have to install the VNC Viewer client. So to install it, let's just open here a new tab and search for VNC Viewer. And here, let's click on the first result. And now let's download for Windows. And now let's execute the installer. And let's click on OK. Now let's click on next. Let's accept, next, next, and let's click on install. So the VNC Viewer is installed. Let's click on finish. Now let's start the VNC Viewer and let's add a new connection to our Docker image. So let's set up a new connection by clicking here on new connection. And now here we have to provide the host name of our Docker image. So it is localhost. Then we have to add here column and specify the path. So the path that we have indicated, it's the 50,000. So let's copy. Let's paste. Now let's click on OK. And let's see if we can connect to it. So it will appear this warning window. So let's click on continue. And here we can see the page that was launched by our automation. So currently it is not running, but let's launch again our robot. So here on UiPath Orchestrator, let's restart the job on our machine, on our Docker image. So let's start it. And here we can see it was open Google Chrome and then it clicked on platform and so it ended its execution. So it worked well here on our Docker image. And that's all for this tutorial. If you liked it, please give a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel and enable the notifications bell so you don't miss any RPA tutorial from my channel.